We continue now at the top of Daf Ayin Dalet Amud Beis Mesechet Sanhedrin. This is Sanhedrin Daf 70. On the previous summit, the Gemara said that if it's Befarhesi, if a person is asked to violate an Avera in public, so then even if it's a small mitzvah, the person is better to give up his life rather than violate that Avera. And the Gemara says, what do we mean by a mitzvah kala? What's an example of a small mitzvah? Afilu l'shanuye arkasa de mesana. The Gemara says even to change the strap of a sandal, let's say it's the way of the Jews to do it in one fashion and the way of the non-Jews to do it in another fashion, one should not deviate, again, in a situation where it's done befarhesi. Rashi explains, let's say the idol worshippers, the non-Jews, they tie the strap of the sandal in a certain fashion. And let's say the way of the Jewish people is to do it in a different fashion. There's some kind of Jewish way of doing it. For example, the ways of the Jewish people is to be modest. Even this kind of change, that's not even really a mitzvah. That's just a custom. It's a mere custom. Yikadish as Hashem ifnei chaver of Yisrael. He should sanctify the name of Hashem in front of his friends, his Jewish colleagues. When we talk about farhesi here, we always mean in public, in front of Jewish people. And so that's what we're referring to when we say mitzvah kala. And the Gemara continues, v'kama farhesi. Well, what's considered to be in public? How many Jews are necessary that it's considered to be publicly? Amar Rabbi Yaakov, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yaakov says that Rabbi Yochanan says, Ein farhesia pechusa me'asar b'nei adam. Farhesi cannot be less than 10 people. You have to have 10 people. And the Gemara says, Pshita, it's obvious Yisraelim ba'inan, that it needs to be Jewish people. Techsib, because it's written in the pasuk, v'nikdashti b'soch b'nei Yisrael. It says, I'm going to be sanctified among b'nei Yisrael. And so therefore we're talking about Yisrael. Boy, Rabbi Yirmi asks the following question. Tisha Yisrael v'nachri echad ma'hu. What if you'd have 9 Jewish people and 1 non-Jew? What would be the halach in that case? Would that be considered to be farhesia? And the Gemara says, Tashma, come here the following proof. The Tani Rav Yanai Achud Rabbi Chia bar Abba. Rav Yanai, the brother of Rav Chia bar Abba, he taught as follows: Asya toch toch. We have a gzera shava of toch toch, and the gzera shava is as follows: Ksiv hach, it's written over here, v'nikdashti besoch b'nei Yisrael. It says the word besoch. It says toch. Ksiv hasam, and it's written over there, hibadlu mitocha eda hazos. It says that you should separate from this eda. Now malahala nasara, just like over there, the eda that we were referring to, it's talking about the meraglim, the spies. It was talking about 10 people. V'kulu Yisrael, and they were all Jewish. So afkan asar v'kulu Yisrael. Soto over here, it's 10 people, and they are all Jewish. But the Gemara continues, Esther farhesi havoy. But what about Esther? Wasn't that in public? Rashi says, Esther farhesi havoy v'niva lolo ovid kochavim. She had relations with a non-Jew. It's talking about Achashverosh. V'lo masra nafsha l'ktala. She didn't give herself over to be killed. So how could she have done that? Didn't we just say that befarhesia, even a mitzvah kala person has to give up their lives? And the Gemara says to that, Amar Abaya says, Esther karka olam haisa. Esther was karka olam, meaning when you're talking about women having relations, they're not doing anything, they're passive, and therefore this halacha farhesia does not apply. Rashi explains, karka olam, he eina osa maisa, she's not doing an action, hu osa ba maisa, he's doing the action with her, and that's why in that particular case, even though it was befarhesia, she did not give up her life. And the Gemara continues with another answer with regards to Esther. Rava says, hanoas atzman shani, when they're doing it for pleasure, for their own pleasure, meaning the non-Jews are doing it for their own benefit, so then it's different, you don't have to give up your life. Rashi explains, hanoas atzmo she'ino ovid kochavim miskavin lahaviro miyiraso, meaning the non-Jew is not, his intention is not to make the Jew transgress his religion. Ela lahanoas atzmo miskavin, he's just doing it for his own pleasure, so shani, that's different. Ve'in kan chil Hashem, that's not called a chil Hashem, like harig al kach, that a person has to be killed because of that. And the Gemara continues, Di lo te mahachi, because if you don't say this, if you don't say that hanoas atzman is different, so hani kavaki v'dimoniki, they would have these coal shovels that they would give to the priests of Avodah Zarah. Hechi yahavinan lu, how can we give those to them? Why are we allowed to do that? Ela hanoas atzman shani, the answer is, because that was just for their benefit, it was for heat purposes, and that's different. So hachanami, so we are also hanoas atzman shani, if it's just for their benefit in terms of pleasure, so that is different. Rashi explains, hani kavaki v'dimoniki, klei nechosha, these are various copper vessels that you put coals in them, and they're high, and they're over there for the purposes of warmth. So this was talking about on the holiday of the Persians. They would take fire from each house, they would put it in their house of worship, and they would warm by it. They would take from Jews against their will. So how could we give it to them? This was a law of avodas kochavim of the non-Jews, and so therefore we should give up our lives for Kiddush Hashem. How can we give these? And so you have to say, since the non-Jew is not trying to have him transgress the religion, he's just doing it for his own benefit. He needs that vessel. That's not in the category of Kiddush Hashem that one has to be killed over it. Even though the non-Jew only needs it, even though the non-Jew needs it for something that does have to do with the laws and the customs of the idol worship, but it's for his own benefit that he needs that particular vessel. He's not saying anything about worshiping. He's not telling the person to worship, and so therefore, again, this would be a situation of Hanas Atzmon, and we would say that it is not a situation where one has to give up his life. And the Gemara continues, Va'azda Rava L'Taimi. Now, when Rava says that Hanas Atzmon is different, he's following his opinion in another context. The Amar Rava, because Rava said, Akum do Amar Le L'Hai Yisrael. Let's say a non-Jew says to a Jew, Ketol aspasta b'shavsa v'shadi l'chiyusa, cut aspasta, which was used as animal fodder, cut that on Shabbos and give it to the animals, v'lo katil nalach, and if not, then I'm going to kill you. Liktil v'lo liktile. So in that situation, he should cut the aspasta and he should not be killed, because this is being done for the hana of the non-Jew. But shadi l'nahara, if he says you should cut the aspasta and just throw it in the river, the non-Jew is not even using it for any purpose. So then liktile, it's better to be killed, v'lo liktil, and not to cut the aspasta on Shabbos. My time, and what's the reason? Lavure milsa kaboy, because there the whole idea is just to have him transgress. If he's just doing it for the purpose of having him transgress, then the Jew is not allowed to transgress. And Rashi explains, Shadi l'nahara, again, if he says throw it into the river, lahavirohu miskamin, he just wants him to transgress. V'farhesio shas, because there's a malchus, so if it's in public, or if it's a time the government has decrees against the Jewish people, so liktale, so then he should be killed, v'lo liktal aspasta, and he should not cut the aspasta. And the Gemara continues, Bo minei mi Rabbi Ami, they asked Rabbi Ami the following question. Ben Noach mitzuv al kedushas Hashem, o ein mitzuv al kedushas Hashem, is a Ben Noach, is a non-Jew, is he commanded on the mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem, sanctifying Hashem's name, or is he not commanded on that? And the Gemara says, Amar Abai, Abai says, Tashma, come and hear the following proof. Sheva mitzvahs nitztavu b'nei Noach. B'nei Noach, they're commanded in 7 mitzvahs. V'imisa, now if Kiddush Hashem was also a mitzvah for b'nei Noach, so tam nehavyin, so then it would actually be 8 mitzvahs. And so therefore it seems like Kiddush Hashem is not one of the mitzvahs of the Bnei Noach. But the Gemara continues, Amar le Rava, Rava said to him, Inhu v'chol ha'bizrayu, but it could be that the Sheva mitzvahs Bnei Noach, it's them and everything that is related to them, and therefore this would be included, it would be subsumed under the Sheva mitzvahs Bnei Noach. As Rashi explains, Ben Noach muzar al avodas kochavim, a Ben Noach is warned against avodah zara. Kedamar b'dalad mitzvos, v'imamar avor ve'al teharag mitzvah hi lakadosh et Hashem olo. So the question is, let's say they say to him, you should transgress that avodah zara and then not be killed. Is it a mitzvah for the non-Jew to sanctify Hashem's name, to give up his life or not? And the Gemara says Rava says the fact that it's Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach is no proof, because it's Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach, and abizrayu means kol midi de shayich b'hu, kedushas Hashem shayich b'hu, anything that's relevant. And so kedushas Hashem is relevant, meaning dim omer lo lavar alosan mitzvos. So let's say a person says to this non-Jew, transgress those mitzvahs, so the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach, or yeharag, or be killed, v'im lo yekadesh es Hashem yavor aleim. So in that situation, if he doesn't sanctify Hashem's name, he's going to transgress one of the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach. So in a certain sense, it's included, it can be connected to the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach, hilka chaynami b'chlolan, who therefore this is considered to be included, and that would not be a question. The fact that it's 7 and not 8 would not be a question. And the Gemara continues, my have Allah. So what's the conclusion on this? Amar Ravad Barava, Amri Bei Rav. Ravad Barava says that they say in the yeshiva of Rav, Ksiv, it is written in the pasuk, La Davar Hazeh Yislach Hashem Le'avdecha, Bevo Adoni Beis Rimon Le'hishtach Shama, V'hu Nishan Al Yodi V'hishtach Vesi. And Rashi explains the context of the pasuk. This is in Sefer Melachim, La Davar Hazeh Me'achar Shekibel Olav Naaman Shelo Lavod Avodas Kochavim. This is when Naaman is accepting not to serve Avodah Zarah. Amar Lo Le'Elisha, he says to Elisha, La Davar Hazeh Yislach Hashem le'avdecha shani honest bedavar. He says I should be forgiven because I'm being forced. Sha'adoni nishan al yadi, that my master leans on my hand. Uchsiv, and it's written vayomer lo, that Elisha said to him lech l'shalom, go in peace. Al mahodelo. So we see that Elisha agreed to him, and so therefore it seems that he was allowed. He didn't have to give up his life. As the Gemara continues, Uchsiv, and it's written again vayomer lo, that Elisha said to him lech l'shalom, go in peace. And so this seems to prove that there is no mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem when it comes to a non-Jew, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Ayin Hey Amud Aleph.